Hi friends, I'm Pamela Poole and I live an amazing life as an artist and an author. It's been a while since I have done a video. Life took a lot of unexpected turns this year, but it's all good. And so I didn't get in the studio much and I didn't get to write very much. The last book that I had written was The Devil's Drawer, and that was released last March. This year, the end of February, 1st of March, right around Purim, which is a Jewish celebration about the story of Esther, when she had an appointed time that she was God's way of intervening and saving his people, the Jews. And it was so interesting that this book was released at that time because the next book, The Black Hourglass, is about Quincy having an appointed time and reluctantly admitting this as things happened. This is the cover for that book. I do not have the print versions in yet, so I don't have a solid one, a physical one to show you, only this Kindle edition cover. I did do a painting for that particular book though. This is Treasury Street in St. Augustine, Florida. And the reason that it's relevant, it's going to be inside the book in black and white, unfortunately, but it will be inside the book because something important happens on Treasury Street back in 1688 and in the modern time, whenever Quincy is going to be looking for clues that are going to lead him to Treasury Street in Florida. And if you have ever been to St. Augustine, you might have been down Treasury Street or seen it, but it would be so easy to miss it. So you might want to look up some history on that. I think Atlas Obscura might be a good place to find some information on it. And if not, you can learn a lot more about it in this book. The Black Hourglass is about an event that took place in 1688 that Quincy is going to be called on as an archaeologist to find clues for and to see if that mystery can be solved. I'm going to read it's like a prologue to that book, but I know you don't want to actually watch me read it. That's kind of hard to watch someone read. So I'm going to put the camera on another scene, maybe the books or something behind me, while I read from that prologue. That prologue will give you an idea of what happened that brought Quincy back to St. Augustine, Florida in the modern times for such a time as this, to answer the prayer of someone who did the deed in 1688 of hiding evidence and who was in danger. And so he prayed for the Lord to bring the right person at the right time who could discover that evidence, understand the clues, and as it turns out in modern times, to have the equipment to be able to find these clues without having to damage things, without having to dig. I don't know if many of you know much about modern archaeology, but the equipment we have these days is unbelievable. If they had had these back in the days when they were first starting archaeology, we would have many more things out in the open. But right now, they are known about, but they are not pulled out from their hiding places, if you will, because there's so much. We don't have enough archaeologists or permissions from the countries where these things are to be able to get to them. But knowing that, I wanted to bring it into one of my stories because Quincy is an archaeologist from a family of archaeologists. And so the Black Hourglass is going to be when, instead of him coming to help Mercedes with her architectural historian jobs that he's been doing all summer. Now she's going to come and help him on a reluctant journey that he is getting ready to take, that he begins to understand something himself about why he is there. All right. This book it has been released. It is available on all booksellers online that I know of. Some are a little hard. Libraries take a little while to get them in their systems. So that may be a little bit more challenging if you're trying to get it through Hoopla, through your library or something. Also, I'm going to be in an author event here locally at Bluffton Library. If you're in the Hilton Head area and you want to come by on March the 28th, that will be on Saturday from 11 to 2, and you can meet me. You can pick up some swag. Like we're going to have some blue sunglasses with the blue lenses, because Southern Sky Publishing, Southern Sky is pretty blue, and we have a lot of sunshine. So hope you can come by and meet me and pick up maybe some of the books that you don't have yet. And right now I'm going to go read the prologue to you. You can read the description for this story on, a lot of people read digitally from Amazon, Kobo, Barnes & Noble. Any of those places that you go, you can read a description of how this story goes. And I'm going to read the prologue, so you'll be all set. Thanks for listening, folks. Bye-bye. The Black Hourglass, Strange Sands Suspense 6, St. Augustine, Florida, by Pamela Poole. Copyright Pamela Poole 2026, and read by Pamela Poole. Prologue. Enter through the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the road broad that leads to destruction, and there may be many who go through it. Matthew 7:13. A simple wood cross dangled crazily in the sweltering darkness of a family chapel in St. Augustine, Florida. It hung suspended on a leather cord around the neck of Friar Mateo de la Cruz, who shook off shell fragments and quartz dust from his robe. Coquina was the enduring material used to build the town. The quarry was convenient on nearby Anastasia Island, and it was the perfect material for the underground space at the altar. He replaced the smooth floor tiles and whispered a prayer over them. When he straightened up and stretched his back, the cross rested peacefully again on rough, earthy brown cotton. Unconsciously, the friar smeared grit across his sweaty brow with the back of his hand. His work in the shadows hid evidence of crimes against the crown and humanity. Time was running out for him as surely as it had run out for Alonso Alvarez. The bookkeeper had confessed his sins only hours before his murder as he fled town. But those behind his death must repay their borrowed power on borrowed time in the black sand of their symbol, the hourglass. The serpent that wrapped around the middle of it would have them in the end. As his face crumpled into a grimace of grief over evil deeds that must break God's heart, Friar Mateo de la Cruz sighed deeply. His lungs filled with salty air from the bay. It was heavy with the scent of garden foliage and damp earth. The accountant in his confidence had hidden the evidence he entrusted to the friar, waiting for the fired clay tablet with a message to stand the test of time. How much time? Only God knew. The hem of his robe swished over his dusty feet in worn leather sandals. His pace quickened in the darkness. There was much to do under the cover of a sleepy town at night. He had another sealed, timeless vessel to hide, where Alonso Alvarez prepared a place under the angel wings. Then he must deliver a message that would mean his death if intercepted. Back at the friary, a humble candle grew bearded at Friar Mateo's desk. He dipped the quill again, uncertain of the right words to write, the most important letter of his life. How many months before it reached the king? Letters lay forgotten for seasons in the governor's house in Havana, where ships left for Spain. Friars had prayed for a reply from Madrid and died of fever before any came. If the letter made it to Cuba and was entrusted to a fleet captain bound for Spain, if the Atlantic spared the vessel from storms and privateers, there remained the months of waiting for a royal answer to begin its journey. 6 months if the winds favor the trip. A year if they do not, he whispered. In truth, no help from Spain will come soon enough to save me. He squeezed his eyes shut and said a prayer inspired by Psalm 31:15. My times are in thy hand. Deliver me from mine enemies, who do evil in thine eyes, Lord. Eyes hired by the Brotherhood of Shadows watched him, and they silenced poor Alonso within hours of his confession. The bookkeeper had once been an honest man who naively stumbled into the account records. The threats against his family frightened him, but honest men cannot live under the weight of sin. And the Lord gave him the courage for the act he knew would end his life, stealing the evidence and hiding it, praying justice would someday come. Alonso had asked why it had fallen on him to expose dangerous men powered by the occult. Friar Mateo de la Cruz was honest when he told him he did not know. God's ways are a mystery to me, but he has allowed this in your life, and you surrendered your life to him. Walk the path of a righteous man. Justice was unlikely to fall on the powerful brotherhood in his time, but the evidence would speak when he was gone. The words for King Charles II that had eluded him now flowed onto the linen paper. It was his last message, penned carefully, though he would leave hints and maps in strategic places around the library in the friary. He did not trust the voyage to Spain, but Providence deserved his trust, and the strength of clay, coin, and ink would outlast generations of men. The friar closed the letter and set down his quill. With great care, he rolled the precious document and wrapped it in parchment. It was ready for the container he would seal, the one that held his letter when presented to the king, or for whoever God willed to find it. In an hour, the friar hid clues in the library that discerning eyes would understand. He made his way toward the Castillo de San Marcos with a hood of his clean gray robe over his head, blending well into the night shadows. A blanket of humidity muffled his quiet footsteps, and a wicked streak of distant lightning ripped the velvet of the night sky. The friar wondered if taking Treasury Street was the best route to the fort. Only about 6 feet wide, the street was built in the common medieval Spanish style, connecting the port to the royal treasury. His nerves tingled with the expectation of danger. There was but one path for a righteous man to take. Alonso Alvarez had taken it, and so would he. Times were evil. The soldiers in the fort may have collected bribes from his enemy, but there was no one else he could turn to with this letter. The friar's skin prickled. Was it his imagination, or could he trust his senses that eyes followed him? With a demeanor of serenity he did not feel, he passed through stark shadows cast by sputtering window lanterns. A cat startled him with a sudden, unearthly howl, and his resolve nearly faltered under a jolt of terror. He cast an anxious glance back when he heard the grate of a stone underfoot and caught a fleeting glimpse of a dark cape. A fellow citizen out at night? Or was it Alonso's murderer who ducked between two buildings? A momentary flash of heat lightning revealed a round-shaped opening in the coquina wall beside him, and before he knew what he was doing, he drew out the glass vial hidden in his robe pocket. The vial was a clean one from the mission's infirmary. It was no longer than a man's hand, with a narrow neck and a rounded lip meant to be sealed with a cork. The glass was clear but imperfect from local artisans, bubbled and faintly green from the iron in the sand used to make it. His letter was nestled inside, corked and sealed with amber beeswax. The bottle made a watertight container to survive the ocean crossing back to Spain. At his arm was a place where the uneven blocks were pocked with voids left between the fossilized shells in the stone. The deep natural crevice ran between two slabs with enough space for his purpose. His heart pounded in his ears as he pressed himself against the rough wall. His fingers pressed the gap and felt loose mortar, trembling but purposeful. He pushed the sealed glass into the gap to wedge it between the gritty coquina surface. Smearing loosened mortar dust over the opening disguised the bottle from those who now hunted him. The wall looked like any other in a colony built of shell and prayer. He slipped into the darkness near the fort, where he hoped to deliver the hidden letter before the royal ship left the harbor. Friar Mateo de la Cruz would mislead the men following him. Then he would return near dawn to recover the message in the bottle. The disquieted cat interrupted the still night again with a nerve-shattering howl. The friar jumped at the noise, then resumed his walk down Treasury Street, whispering fervent prayers. He committed his mission to God's justice, purpose, and plan, asking for another man of God to take it up if he could not fulfill it.